You call them suckers and losers. Who in the hell does he think he is? Who does he think he is?
Who does he think he is, Sean Gregorian? Who does that guy think he is?
Well,
Who does Sean think he is?
maybe he wasn't muted.
Oh, man. It's best to say he was muted. We have Lena Star Moon, who might know what the deal is. She said, that's a deep thought, Sean. It's so deep, we can't even measure it. That's how deep it is. Oh, Maddie Lynn, who says, baby Sean. Yes, Sean is a baby. He needs to be pampered. And how's that diaper rash? All right, we are set here. We are set. Hopefully we're set. I say that every time. Welcome everybody. Welcome everyone to another unique edition of Late Night Update. I am Dean Ryan, your late night host here, with a incredible news radio edition, as I've been promoting. Yes, as we're now bracing to get our system back. We are. But there's too many things going on in the world that how can you not showcase, talk about it with others? So that's what we're doing here tonight, as the episode here tonight is called Russia and China Brace for War. Now, a phrase that's often been used in the past handful of years, but this time there's irrefutable evidence that that's simply the case. Albeit wartime theater, nonetheless, we're still paying for it. We're still paying for it. We're going to be getting into the trade war here with China, as well as the doubling and tripling down of EU and their efforts to take Russia out. They have no choice now, because if they lose Ukraine, all the filthy, dirty secrets spill out. And that's just the tip of the Ukrainian iceberg there. So we're going to talk about that. We also have major flu outbreaks now spreading across the American continent. And probably, I would say, the European and every other continent, too. They're trying to replicate the bubonic plague of old. But you know what they say, you can't ever replicate a classic like that, no matter how many Shakespeareans you have at hand. We're going to be getting into that. Also, the measles outbreak is not far behind, but it sparks outcry in the miracle jab industry. A lot of people are decrying that. Yes, they are. New studies are out about the childhood obesity now, as you can plainly hear. They don't want me getting this out, but who does these days? Yeah, childhood obesity is now equating to some major cognitive dissonance in society, and we're going to put that together here tonight. So you got the measles, you got the flu outbreak, you have just all insanity going out, and that's why. Is this all because of the ceasefire in Gaza? How can we equate the two? We have a major international section here tonight, as major espionage to the CCP, who won't let us be, is now underway here in the United States, going and stemming from the big corporate CEOs and their ties to the CCP, as well as espionage in the Pentagon, something we knew about long ago. Oh, God. Yes, the EU are breaking up, they're saying. EU are breaking up. And let's not forget why the EU was formed to begin with. And it wasn't to just trying to mirror the United States, but get rid of country borders for trafficking. But you didn't hear that from me. Also, the aggression of China now underway over there in the Philippines, a kind of a story we haven't really covered in about 4 to 5 years now, but it's now coming back and making a huge splash. A huge splash. We'll be monitoring that. Also, some showbiz things, but we're going to have a Rebel Mama and some 2 to 3 stories that you need to know about in some real deal you need to know segments. It's going to be coming in the second half here tonight as this news radio edition takes me back to a time where I got my start on radio. So it's really good to be back in the junior varsity, must I add. Okay, we're going to get started now. Before I do, we are broadcasting our frequency here over the way over there on the Facebooks over there at The Real Dean Ryan, as well as Dean Ryan TV on YouTube, the wonderful Graveyard, as well as the new Graveyard Rumble. And hello to everybody who's there. So let's now get started with some late night headlines from your neck of the woods, as well as mine. Well, let's pretend that was a segue. Okay, so let's start now. This is a very interesting story. This is coming out of Texas. And I knew this was going to happen. Don't call me Nostradamus. Just call me call me Mr. Cleo in this case, because now Texas Attorney General, Mr. Ken Paxton, I'm sure you're familiar with the Attorney General there. Well, he's now vowing to target leftist terror cells following Charlie Kirk's murder. Now, how convenient. Do we see the Hegelian dialectic that was used for Charlie Kirk's murder? If that's even a legitimate person and a legitimate murder, which we have Candace Owens who claims that she saw another angle, and by the way, said exactly what I was saying, and I got laughed at, that the shot came from the front end, which I said could have came from the watch of the Mossad agent, one of those high-tech guns. Then they cleaned up the whole I mean, I think he's dead, but they're using the death to placate the American people, to get the American people to applaud and say, yes, go after the leftists. Now, listen to this. This is so key because it starts with the leftist, quote, leftist terror cells, but that's not the true aim, and that's not the true target here. It's people like you and I, because ultimately the next big domestic terrorist they're going to be naming here in the next couple of years, if not sooner, is the, quote, extreme right. Mark my words on that. So let's hear what Mr. Paxton, the beloved Attorney General of Texas. Well, the Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton has now launched a new undercover initiative to dismantle what he calls the, quote, leftist terror cells operating within Texas, signaling a major escalation in the state's domestic security efforts. Well, the operation is now a direct response to the fatal shooting of commentator Charlie Kirk, yes, which Paxton labeled a political assassination. Well, he's a dirty, filthy liar. And he knows he's lying, and they're using this to come after all of us. Yeah, just like you had you had the one of the key person in the administration and the FBI is now saying, well, we need to take the guns away. They're now drafting legislation to take the guns away from leftist organizations. Well, that you know the theme here. So continuing now, they're saying the alleged shooter's recent left-leaning political shift is a key focus of the investigation. And notice too, there was never this outcry and this, well, we need to go after this person. You know, when the Trump assassination took place, there's no follow-up, nothing of that nature. But this one there is. So there was more clout on this one than there was on the first event last summer. Now, the mission's goal is to identify and infiltrate the radical groups that Paxton believes encourage political violence, using the state's full law enforcement power to bring them to justice. Authorities are linking now Kirk's killing to other violent incidents, including the shooting of an ICE facility in Dallas over there. Investigators have connected to the extremist group Antifa. Brought to you by the FBI. The FBI presents Antifa. Now, Paxton frames Kirk's death as a pivotal moment for America, positioning his new security crackdown as a necessary defense against an existential threat, in this case, and a central part of his political agenda, which includes a run for the U.S. Senate. So there it is right there. He wants to grandstand and look like the hero here, Mr. Paxton, a man who has really got in the way of true liberty and freedom, I believe, in many key incidences over there in Texas, and misdirected on purpose the target of that whole psychological operation. So if he was really keen to reality, it would be Mossad is somebody who should be looked into, not the FBI presents Antifa. Well, there's that one for you. And that makes me sick. That makes me sick. But I'm used to it, and I'm getting better. Well, now, in wake of all that, well, the hoopla, just as of yesterday, was now the ceasefire agreement, which I guess you have to have a ceasefire agreement in the Gaza neighborhoods now, because there isn't a Gaza anymore. Well, in this case, Gaza ceasefire is now signed after massive prisoner swap, but the path to lasting peace remains uncertain. Well, if there's anything certain I can tell you is that statement right there. That's a certain certainty. There is no uncertainty, or certainty rather. Now Trump has now announced the ceasefire signed over there in Egypt, with Egypt, Qatar, and Turkey. Now, a prisoner exchange saw Hamas release captives for the Palestinian prisoners. Now, the deal also includes a plan for Gaza's reconstruction and demilitarization, which how do you demilitarize when there's no military to begin with? And then if you really looked into it, any and all weapons came from the Netanyahu himself via Qatar, $18 million. Now, skepticism remains now over long-term peace and Palestinian statehood, as now the agreement faces challenges with Israel and Hamas absent from the ceremony. Well, that's too bad. And I guess it doesn't count because they weren't there to touch the wall. Well, that's how we see it. Now, here's another just astonishing accomplishment. Is now New York Attorney General, who's no Ken Paxton, but something far less. Well, Letitia James, someone I haven't spoken about in, quite some time, has now been indicted on federal bank fraud charges amid the political firestorm. That's right, the New York Attorney General, Miss Letitia James, who I'm trying to recall and recollect if she was the one who wore her dress backwards while taking the witness stand after some raunchy rendezvousing, but that's somebody else. Well, in this case, she's been indicted on the federal charges of bank fraud and making false statements and claims to the financial institution regarding Norfolk, Virginia property. Now, prosecutors allege that she misrepresented it as a secondary residence to secure favorable loan terms when it was actually a rental investment. So there you go. She's trying to scheme the timeshare kind of industry over there. Now, the charges stem from a wider investigation initiated by the FHFA, which also flagged discrepancies in her Brooklyn brownstone loan filings. So Letitia dismissed the indictment as politically motivated attack orchestrated by President Donald Trump, accusing him of weaponizing the justice system in retaliation for her civil fraud case against him. You know, the irony there is giving me poisoning just of some sorts, just to hear that. The irony and the hypocrisy. Politicizing the lawfare and the justice system. Boy, you know, she has the short-term memory problem and the memory of of an insect in this case. In closing, the indictment follows similar cases against Trump's critics, including James Comey, fueling accusations of the judicial politicization. Democrats, including Kathy Hochul and Senator Chuck Schumer, condemned the move as an abuse of power. And, Chuck Schumer would know. He's been abusing people with his power for quite some time. And have you seen his wife? That's the last question. Now, if convicted, James Latita James faces up to an incredible amount of time in jail, up to 60 years in prison. Legal experts note that the case could challenge the prosecutorial independence, especially if defense targets the legitimacy of U.S. Attorney Lindsay Halligan's appointment. So we'll have to wait and see. Her trial begins October 24th, although it feels like it should be starting on the 31st because it is quite ghoulish. There's that one for you. Well, something else that's ghoulish here that's now spreading across the United States without any prejudice. Well, that's the new flu outbreak. Have you heard about it and have you contracted it? That's the other question. The global health is now in peril as a headline. It's coming out of Natural News as the flu outbreak now has crippled and continues to cripple schools across the country as cancer deaths projected to soar. And that's another thing we have to tell our very ill-informed and very naivete friends and family about. Before you get that booster, let me tell you and talk to you about turbo cancer. Yeah, we're going to have to be those types and go door to door and maybe give them the Watchtower magazine too when we're done. As now a severe influenza outbreak over there in Malaysia, just for instance, not just America, has now infected over 6,000 students and forced the temporary closure of multiple schools, particularly affecting teenagers outside the usual flu season. See, and heavily miracle jabbed over there in Indonesia and many Asiatic parts of the country and world. Now the outbreak has led to shifts at home-based learning in junior science colleges and heightened preventive measures like masking and distancing and sanitation. Yes, and that's coming to California and has already started. Now, the influenza activity is also rising globally and not just domestically. Now, for instance, in the U.S., 26 states now report high activity and 16 widespread infections. Now, the World Health Organization notes heightened flu levels across Europe and North America. Yes, Canada as well. Now, I think, they're still part of North America and not North Beijing. Well, now, meanwhile, cancer projections warn of a looming crisis. Global new cancer cases may climb up, all predictions of 75% increase across the world, with deaths also surging. Now, experts who are familiar with the deaths and the flu, and yes, the outbreak as well, stress that the dual threats underscore the weakness in health systems and call for increased investment in prevention. Well, could they be any more vague on that one? And what expert advice that was. Thank you very much, experts familiar with the matter. Well, now that brings us to another familiar situation, as now measles are giving the flu a run for their money. Well, now this sticking with natural news now, as the measles outbreak sparks debate over the miracle jab, the efficacy of the miracle jabs in the country, as well as the public health policy. For starters, well, South Carolina has now reported 11 new measles cases, forcing 153 un-miracle jab children into a 21-day quarantine. Outbreaks in Spartanburg and Greenville counties mirror a national surge. Isn't that something? And notice what they said there. 153 un-miracle jab children had to be in the 21-day quarantine. No, not the children who have the measles that, yes, got the miracle jabs. Those are the protected class now, and the outcast are the un-miracle jabbed, and they knew this was going to happen years ago before the rollout. This was part of the entire pandemic essentials right here. When we warned everybody, and a lot of people did not heed those calls, and they're paying the ultimate price. They have the Bell's palsy. They have aches and pains and all kinds of ailments that they never had before. That's right. They had diabetes and it was diet managed. Well, that changed. Now, officials insist, though, that the MMR miracle jab is the best defense in the world. But critics question the effectiveness, the durability, and yes, the transparency. Yes, and the competency as well. Now, despite measles being declared eliminated in 2000, outbreaks persist, raising doubts about the CDC's data and big pharma influence. Past scandals now have come to question and raised awareness, and as the distrust in these agencies is at a record high now, as well as the distrust in miracle jabs' safety. Now, critics argue that natural immunity may offer a better protection than the miracle jab itself, especially in well-nourished individuals. Now, get this now, Texas just this year alone had an outbreak of 762 cases, 2 deaths, despite aggressive miracle jabs, and suggest waning the miracle jab efficacy. And let us not forget that there is how many millions came through the border from all over the world with all kinds of new airborne and illnesses, measles. And a lot of this began in 2015 with the most notable major case of measles stemming out of California. Now, what you didn't hear about that is where it came from and the where it originated from, which it stemmed out of Disneyland, 2015, from, quote, Chinese tourist. And I'll leave that there and I'll take my answer off air. There you have that one. Well, sticking with health, and as a health practitioner myself and a online doctor, I can tell you this one is major. It's one of the biggest epidemics, no pun intended, that has crossed these shores. And I'm talking about childhood obesity. Well, now a new study has come out as we close off the segment here, as childhood obesity is now being linked to thinner brain cortex and impaired cognitive function. And let me tell you, this is so true. The diet, it's all stemming from the gut. And this is really just kind of on the heels of a most recent study linking your gut health, your diet health, could be, and probably is linked to your bipolar disorder. Well, now Yale researchers found that children with higher BMI show cortical thinning and white matter damage, indicating impaired cognitive development. Yes, there's a lot of low IQ'd young people in this country, sadly. Now, the large-scale study analyzed the MRI scans from roughly 5,000 kids, ages 9 to 10. And in the study, it found that 21% of those with high body measurement, the body fat scores, were overweight, while 17.6% were obese. Now, the structural brain damages could explain the poor academic performance in these obese children, linking the high BMI to memory, attention, and executive function deficits. Now, obesity-related inflammation, insulin resistance, and reduced brain blood flow could drive these changes, but long-term studies are needed to prove the cause of it all. Now, early nutritional lifestyle interventions may help, but preventing childhood obesity is critical to protect long-term brain health. Let me go further on that. We have such depleted minerals in the food crops in California alone. And what that has caused is low cognitive functioning of the brain in a lot of young people. For instance, as we close this off here, for instance, I went to a pizza parlor the other day just to pick up a pizza pie, and the cashier kid, had to be 16, 17, was completely not there. He was like Spicoli was all those years ago, but even worse. Didn't know how to greet, didn't know how to initiate and receive the orders. And I see this across the board, that a lot of things that we knew and took for granted and learned the essentials of life, a lot of these young people just don't know. And you could see that. You go to a gas station today and look at some of these instructions on how to pump gas all of a sudden. Lift up, put in. I mean, it is the most basic things that you would teach like Neanderthals who are like becoming unfrozen and trying to assimilate back in society now. And that's the kind of road warrior stature, Hunger Games, that was built by the power structure for this time. And it's quite, well, it's quite annoying in that case. That's going to bring us now to some Real Deal International. And let me tell you, this one is big here as Late Night Update. We're usually monitoring the geopolitical spectrum here, but this time we're getting really immersed in it now as some major news is coming out of the U.S., in this case, the corporate America now, as a CEO of top American insurance company faces scrutiny over CCP ties amid growing U.S.-China tensions. And this is not even the tip of the iceberg. This is just a little sample of what has been espionage and treason, not just within the government, but in corporate America and with the CCP, because starting in the late 90s, going in the early 2000s, it was highly encouraged. Starting in the early 90s, going into the early 2000s, it was highly encouraged to take your business to China. Oh, you have a tile texture business, you have a fashion clothing range. No, just have it manufactured in China. And that's what was going on. It was a very close-knit group and CEOs that still have their CCP ties. But let me tell you about this now. This is a big story and a microcosm of what's to come now, as insurance giant Chubb Limited. Speaking of obesity in the country, well, here's a company called Chubb Limited, and CEO Evan Greenberg accused of maintaining deep ties to the Chinese Communist Party. Yes, so much so Eric Swalwell's jealous, and so far, no word from Feng Feng. Well, Consumers Research launches multi-million-dollar campaign, including TV ads and mobile billboards, and alleging that Chubb prioritized CCP-linked businesses over the U.S. interest. Yes, they did. Greenberg has repeatedly met with Chinese leaders, including, yes, Xi Jinping himself, and holds advisory roles at CCP-linked institutions like the Tongxue University. Now, Chubb defends Greenberg, citing his criticism of China's authoritarian approach, while former Trump officials vouch for his pro-U.S. stance. Well, the father of Greenberg, Mr. Maurice Greenberg, has longstanding CCP connections, receiving awards from Beijing for advancing China's economic interest. And so far, that's all we know, as the allegations that Chubb's operations in China, including its 85.5% stake in the Huatai Insurance Group, in partnership with the state-owned PICC, reveal a pattern of difference to CCP influence. The group's ads declares that while U.S. leaders warn of China's growing threat, that Chubb is investing more and more and standing closer to the CCP. And, well, Chubb is, they have a Chubb for China. That's how things are growing over there. Speaking of which, well, there's now more espionage, this time out of corporate of America and into the Pentagon itself. This is something to raise eyebrows and alarms. Now, as a Pentagon contractor is now being charged with unlawful retention of classified information. Well, I'm appalled and I'm shocked. Never in my wildest dreams, I've said. We'll get this now. Some of the documents that has been, here it is right here. As a man who worked for the Pentagon, let me share this with you. And the State Department advisor has been charged with removing classified information from a government facility after investigators found over 1,000 documents with classified markings at his house in Virginia. Now, some of the documents that Ashley Tellis, an expert in South Asian affairs, allegedly accessed and removed refer to Air Force tactics, techniques, according to court records. Now, Mr. or Miss Tellis allegedly met numerous times with the Chinese government officials over the last several years, says FBI affidavit made public on Tuesday. Now, just as far back as April of 23, TELUS had dinner with Chinese government officials in a Washington, D.C. suburb. Could be occasionally overheard talking about Iranian-Chinese relations and emerging technologies, including artificial intelligence. And that's the big one right there. China wants to own the gravel. They want to own the AI in the same way that Israel owns the internet and the cables all connected to it. They want to go above that. Now, TELUS is an unpaid advisor for the State Department and a contractor of office and net assessment, according to the U.S. affidavit. So this is a huge. This is huge. Now, it's worth noting that TELUS, who I'm speaking about, is a naturalized U.S. citizen, although born in India, according to court documents, and listed as a senior fellow at the Carnegie Endowment. The Carnegie Endowed, the Well Endowment of the International Peace, a prominent U.S. think tank, we think. So there you have it. Isn't that just, it's really refreshing to hear that espionage is still well and alive in 2025. Now, speaking of well and alive, there's now a well-orchestrated and alive trade war just in time for the holidays. Something you can get your loved ones, well, get them a trade war is now, as China says it will fight to the end after U.S. said it was trying to hurt world economy. China, that is. Well, I would say so in some regard, but some others would disagree now, as China has hit back at accusations from the U.S. that it is trying to hurt the world economy, as the trade war between the world's two biggest economies appeared to re-escalate, as an amped up and aggression of rhetoric has now increased from both sides. Don't you hate when these guys fight? Well, China's Commerce Ministry said Tuesday that the U.S. was threatening to intimidate with the prospect of new tariffs on Chinese exports. Quote, which is not the right way to get along with China, a spokesperson said, who's familiar with the aggression. Well, the comments came shortly after U.S. Treasury Secretary Mr. Scott Bessent said China wanted to, quote, pull everybody else down with them by damaging the world economy. It follows the U.S. and China's starting to charge each other increased port fees on cargo ships, increasing trade tensions. And we must remember China owns virtually over 80% of the ports around the world, including major ones here in the U.S. Well, the U.S. announced plans earlier this year to begin charging duties on China-linked ships to counter what it says is unfair maritime trade practices. Those tariffs and retaliatory ones at that, charges from China came into effect just today. Now, state media said that Chinese-built ships would be exempt from new measures, although the Commerce Ministry and the Ministry of Commerce said Monday that it had notified the U.S. about the rare earth export controls Beijing announced last week, contradicting comments made by the U.S. Trade Representative, Mr. Jamieson Greer, over the weekend that U.S. had not been warned. So this is what it is. So we're going to be seeing an increase in restrictions on rare earth minerals right here in the U.S. and related technologies. And that also includes a lot of the on-the-shelter medicines from ibuprofen, the autism-riddled Tylenol. Yeah, you can't get that anymore. Now, in response, and also in closing here, Trump has now responded to the rare earths measure by announcing plans to impose tariffs of 100% on Chinese exports. Effective November 1st, Trump announced prompted threats of retaliation from China. So the tariff war now between us over here in the U.S. and China has been largely paused all this time until 10th of November. Or until November 1st, that is, as both sides are trying to reach a trade agreement. Now, yeah, this is very worrisome. You're going to see an increase in a lot of things that you took for granted or didn't even know were made in China. So when you want to get that wonderful white rice that's made of plastic for your dinners and that wonderful beef and broccoli wok, you're going to be charged a little more on rice and a lot of other goods too. This is going to have a big impact on us. Well, speaking of aggressions, well, China didn't stop there with the U.S. Well, they came back to an old foe who could be an old friend, who could be a friend, well, not with benefits, but with deficits in this case now, as the Philippine islands over there, as the Philippine Coast Guard condemns China's aggression near disputed island. And just to paint the picture of where this was before, there was coral reefs and little islands around the Philippine Islands that China's trying to take back. And how they were doing it through fishing boats. They were disguising the People's Liberation Armies and Navy as through fishermen boats and taking it in increments. And this is what they're doing in South America too. So this is how the war is fought. And if and when they were to come into the mainland here in the U.S., it's said that the PLA and the Chinese special forces will be wearing blue helmets. Sounds crazy until you find out in 2020 they were disguised, they as the PLA, as U.S. National Guardsmen. And ask Australia how that fared for them during their big revolt or attempted one, when they got batted down by cops that looked very unfamiliar to places over there in Sydney, in Cambodia, and they were Chinese cops because they want Australia's earth minerals that are rare. Oh, shocking. Well, now the Philippine Coast Guard now has reported that the Chinese ships executed, quote, dangerous maneuvers and fired water cannons at the BRP Datu Pangbonway, which is a great cuisine as well. While causing minor hull damages, officials condemned the actions as unprovoked coercion. And by the way, this is happening in the South China Sea. We're doing the same thing to the Chinese Navy. You see? Everybody's trying to repeat the Gulf of Tonkin, and it just doesn't always work. And then China figured out, as well as others, wait a minute, if the Americans can do Gulf of Tonkins, if they can do false flags, well, so can we. It's a very big emerging industry now, as now Beijing denied wrongdoing, claiming the Philippine vessels were, quote, illegally intruding into its waters and forced defensive measures. Now, this contradicts the 2016 Hague ruling, in case you forgot, which rejected China's expansive South China Sea claims. In a recently released video, it captured the moment of the Chinese vessel that rammed into the Filipino ship and blasted it with water cannons. Despite the aggression, Philippine officials vowed to remain undeterred in protecting its fishermen. I mean, haven't you ever had a squirt gun fight? Little water guns? I guess no one has a playful spirit anymore. Now the U.S. Embassy over there in Manila denounced China's aggression, reaffirming support for the Philippine Islands. And the South China Sea sees $3.4 trillion in annual trade, heightening strategic tensions. Yes, it does. Now the clash underscores, in closing, the Filipino president, Fernando Marcos Jr., tougher stance compared to his predecessor, with China militarizing its artificial islands nearby. Analysts warn of potential wider conflict if diplomacy fails. Well, that's a hell of analysis. In that case, I should become a State Department analyst. And here is a final one here before we head to break and come back. Well, we've always wondered what was going to come about with the documents that were supposed to be revealed from JFK. Well, now we might have an answer, although it might not be the one we want. Let me tell you about this. This is coming out of the National News Desk now, as Representative Luna, well, says ambassador from Russia will give docs to her office regarding the JFK assassination. So there you have it. All the missing documents have been in Russia this whole time. Isn't that something? Well, now Florida GOP Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna announced today that the ambassador from Russia to the U.S. will be giving a number of documents to her office about the Russian government's findings on who killed former President John F. Kennedy. Well, here's a quote. My office just received word from the Russian embassy that the ambassador to Russia, from Russia, or to the U.S. from Russia, to the United States, will be handing over and hand delivering the missing documents, findings on who assassinated JFK to my office. Isn't that something? She said the document's about 350 pages long. It's an easy read and a lot of pictures. Luna said that her office will be working with former Washington Post reporter Jefferson Morley, in case you were just dying to know, to make sure that the American public has full access to the documents as long as Israel's not mentioned in them. That's in the fine print. Yes, it is. So earlier this year, in case you forgot, I certainly did, that Luna was made the chairwoman of the task force to declassify federal secrets. And that's where we lost hope, faith, and trust in Luna after she's an Israeli firster. My God, we are so infiltrated. Okay, we're going to take a quick break here. I got to talk to my Russian ambassador and see what they got for me. But when we get back, we're going to get into some key stories that you need to know about. We're going to bring Rebel Mama back here on the stage and get to that, as some of these things are very daunting. Let me just give you a little preview of what I'm talking about here. So on the other side, we're going to get into something I've been wanting to know for quite some time of, who is Katie Porter and why is there so much controversy of this candidate for the new government or the new governor of California? Yeah. Did you know? Newsom's trying to be president. See, we're going to talk about that. Also, there's some weirdness happening, major weirdness happening in what is now being called another suicide from a parking garage. And I covered this about 2 years ago coming out of Disneyland. This is something of foul play coming out of LA that's now being investigated by the LA County Sheriff's Department over there, as somebody jumped. And who jumped? And what's the key to it? What's the key to it? And then we're going to cover the Charlie Kirk medal honor medal ceremony and see what that was all about in case you missed it. And something's going on with Britney Spears. We're going to tell you about that on the other side here of Late Night Update, the news radio edition. We'll be back after this quick break. And by the way, happy birthday to, Paul Simon. Stand by. Get this much away from me. No. You would be my bodyguard, and I can be your long lost pal. And I can call you Betty, Betty, when you call me out. You would be my bodyguard, I can be your long lost pal. And I can call you Betty, Betty, when you call me out. Remember, going into the 90s, there's some movies that I would recommend you leave in the past, the movies with cops. So you had one cop who was playing by the rules, ready for retirement, the other one who was rogue, took the badge. Maverick, he's a maverick. He don't play by the rules. He's dangerous. He hangs on to 18-wheelers going, 90 miles per hour by the side and takes a fleet of army down, a whole fleet. Just talking about it, I get blurry. That's how bad it gets. No, there's no rules. Once you take the badge off, anything goes. It's full on, too, when the good cop who played by the rules his whole career goes,
All right, I'm taking my badge off, too, for this one time.
And, you think about those films we grew up on, is the cop movies, lawyer TV shows, the hospital shows. You would think that the only jobs in America are cops, lawyers, and some gig at the hospital. Okay, we are back. We are back. Hopefully everybody can hear me. Anyways, yes, we are. So we are back here, and we have we have echo chair. Anyways, let's get her out here. Let's see if she's ready for us. Rebel Mem, welcome to the show. Welcome to the stage. What a flawless show it is here today. Thank you for being here. Hopefully
No
you can hear me.
problem, Dean. What you just said was garbledy-gook. Everything seems to
Well,
break.
am I scrambled? Are they scrambling my audio once again? Is that what's happening?
Yeah.
Yep. Typical.
However, fascinating stories. I especially like the one you talked about with the child obesity. Because let's think about it. If childhood obesity causes all of these cognitive thought issues, well, then it would only make sense that would carry on into adulthood, right?
I think you're onto something, but I see what you're
And
doing.
some names come to mind. Pritzker, Christie, and this is a lovely segue to the woman who will henceforth be known as Katya Porker with a K.
Okay, tell me about it, okay? Because I'm hearing about this Porter person.
Porker,
and
yes.
Porker, anyways, there's a
We're
lot of
getting away from
controversy
the
about her.
algorithms. Well,
Got it. Tell me about it.
Yeah. I have a wonderful video, and I'm going to post it to the comments because we are technically handicapped tonight. So if anybody wants to see it, it actually is a.
I certainly am.
It's a wonderful collage of bad behavior by this woman who is running for governor and is favored to win in the state of California. And let's see, she did an interview with CBS a few days ago. Became completely offended by follow-up questions, cut it short, and the look on her face was similar to Miss Piggy just prior to a karate chop being delivered.
Wow. And she's a Democrat running for the governor position as Newsom he's termed out, correct?
Absolutely. So,
and okay, go ahead. Continue.
That's only the beginning. So she not only walked out of the interview that every other candidate has done without any issues, but she is also on screen doing some podcasting from her kitchen by the looks of it. And one of her staff members walked behind her and she had a complete meltdown and screamed at them. And back in 2012, her now ex-husband, thank goodness, in the divorce proceedings, let it be known that not only was he too, and I quote, too effing stupid to have a cell phone, let alone operate it, but she got mad that her mashed potatoes weren't just so, and she took the pot of boiling mashed potatoes and dumped it on his head, burning his scalp.
You know, some people take their mashed potatoes very seriously, and
Very seriously.
That's a step too far. Too far. So, so that's the controversy around her, is that she's abusive towards her husband, which is then, she's perfect for the governor's position in California, because we've always had abusive governors to run the Golden State.
Okay, that might be a trend you want to get away from.
Well, we're addicted to pain. Okay, so is she? So she said to win, and the incumbent, or I should say the challenger from the GOP, from what I've seen over here. Well, you have the sheriff of San Bernardino. I don't think he's faring well. So it looks like they're going to keep a strong stranglehold on the Democratic side for governor. Is that what we're seeing?
Unless the Republican gets some real traction, and that would be the podcaster guy. What's his name? I thought he was an L.
Right.
It escapes me right now.
It's yes, amongst many things that escaped me right now. But okay, I want to ask you about this now. Segueing here, there's somebody who jumped from a car garage again, and they're saying it was self-assisted suicide or something of that nature. And this is another example of here in the Southland of these bizarre cases where people are jumping. But what's the significance of this one in particular? Because I've made the case for past jumps before.
I'm just going to look at it here.
So yes, this was stemming out of LA at the Hyatt Regency Hotel. You had officers who arrived on the scene around 8:30 last Friday near the town's shopping mall and local Hyatt Regency Hotel. Foul play. So tell me about this. Who jumped? What do we know? And what is the link here?
It's the sister-in-law, I believe, of her name is Carrie, and it's Carrie Romney.
Okay, so Romney, Mittens Romney, who has been very silent recently, ever since the Burisma Ukrainian connection, and really honestly, ever since the weird, bizarre, offshoot Mormon pack over there on the border of Mexico and California was caught as they were doing baby cells and trafficking connected to Romney, who is totally not into women, but also connected to Obama, who's, I'm not sure what he's into. Well, I have an idea, but yeah, so this is, why is there foul play, or why are they saying foul play is not suspected? Because that usually means it is.
That's a weird thing. I mean, the LA County Sheriff's spokesperson said, we don't know if it was self-murder or accidental. So how can you possibly rule out somebody shoving them?
Well, this is what's interesting. So about a week ago, we saw the head of the Mormon church get gunned down. Nothing to see here. Now we see what I believe is sending a message to Romney not to speak. Because there's something big, and I predicted this a long time ago, something big is lurking around the corner for the Mormon church. And I think that the Mormon influence is highly underrated and people highly overlooked. Their influence in the military and politics as we know it. Just Steve Marriott alone and his influential power is right up there and just as superior as I would say a Jared Kushner or an Ellison. Exactly. That's how powerful that church is.
And remember where Charlie's murder took place, or supposed
Utah.
Alleged. You got it.
And what a great segue that is, because now today was the medal ceremony. Tell me about this, because I didn't get a chance to. I was too busy watching paint dry and my grass grow. What was the ceremony?
It was a lovely ceremony, lots of people there. And we had an entire crew in the Night Owl's cynical department working as it was on. And we critiqued it like you would not believe. First of all, the Trump that was there was not the same Trump as yesterday. This was red tie, gray-haired Trump, not blonde and blue Trump that we had, or blonde and burgundy yesterday, I guess it was. Yes, the different Trump.
She
made a big mistake during her speech, Dean.
And who's she? The wife? Which wife?
The wife, Erica.
Okay.
In between dabs of the fake tears, she said, and I quote, he loved to sit outside, with his decaf coffee on a Saturday morning, his phone turned off to honor the Sabbath. Saturday? So Saturday is only observed by Seventh-day Adventist and Jewish. Charlie was neither, according to
Well,
them.
right. Interesting. And well, we're kind of learning that Charlie Kirk is really probably could be not his name after
Yeah.
all. And
And the
her
parents weren't
parent.
there again.
See, okay, so this is where I'm going into. You've yet to see true relatives of this Charlie Kirk, and I'm even willing to say that there could have been several Charlie Kirks over the course of time.
True.
And what does Candace Owens know? Who's Candace working for?
Well, Candace Owens is married to somebody very suspect. We got to remember that.
Yes, Catholic.
Uh,
Interesting.
Look into the husband. He is completely the other side.
And he's coming out of the City of London, correct? He
You
works in
got
the
it.
finance center. There you go, right there. That's City of London. If in case you don't know, it is the ground zero for the Rothschild banking cartel.
And
Big
that's
time.
where our prime minister came from, remember? He
Yes,
was
you
in
did.
charge of
Yes,
the
you
Bank
did.
of England when the dossier was paid for.
Well, okay. Well, here is before you go, and I'm going to get your take on this.
I've still got 3 more stories. Are you kidding?
Well, I want to bring this to you. We'll get to your stories here, but I'll be remiss if I don't bring this up because somebody brought this to my attention about Britney Spears once again, who is going out of control, apparently posting bizarre videos on Instagram. Have you heard about this?
I have not, but I will look into it.
This is another display of the conservatorship and takeover of people with money. We saw it with Wendy Williams. And now her ex-husband, Kevin Federline, I guess, is saying in his book, he has a new book coming out. Everyone has a new book coming out. And people that don't even read books or know how to write one, they all have books coming out. He's saying that since the pop star's conservatorship ended, which he's vying for, it's become impossible to pretend everything's okay. So this is another example. Now, here's where I'm getting at, is it's now being said that these bizarre clips that we see of Britney, which is very worrisome because last time we saw something like this, Anna Nicole Smith was doing similar things. But in this case, people are saying that it's not really even Britney herself. There's a lot of different lookalikes. And we've heard that about Jamie Foxx and others. We talk about in politics all the time. Do you think this is... is she even still with us? So that's another question. But this is some bizarre, strange Illuminati stuff on display once again.
Well, you know what? If she's not with us anymore and they're just using AI or whatever, which is perfectly plausible. I mean, why not use somebody who's already gone? They can't fight back. They can't contradict anything you say. You can smear them all you like. And nobody's going to stand up for her.
That's right. That's right. That's right. We got multiple Erica Kirks. We got multiple Trumps. What's one more? Okay, let's get to your. You have 3 more, a few more things to share here.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Just a couple of fun ones. Would you believe that the schools in Canada are strongly suggesting, that kids not bring ham sandwiches to school because some students find them offensive? Personally, I'd say get your face out of my sandwich, but one has to be accommodating.
Well, you know what? When I go to Subway, I'm often offended myself, so I can't blame them. All right?
Yeah, that was just a quick one. We've got some extremely disturbing news out of the UK, courtesy of Angelina, and this hit like 20 minutes before showtime. Would you believe that they are trying to push through legislation in the UK that means everybody has to go to sleep by 10 o'clock. And if you even try to get on the internet, they're going to fine you and take away your cable TV and everything else. I am not making this up.
Okay. Okay, so this goes into a bigger issue here, and if you're from the UK, you know what I'm talking about, is a lot of people, and a lot of Americans may not know, in order to watch television in England, you have to have a television license, literally. You have to pay a license to watch because everything's public, every network's owned by the government. So a lot of people, as we are in the modern age, don't watch their television anymore. They watch YouTube. And the government's having a hard time collecting the fees because that entire economy and society is based off the socialism module, and which is really communist. And they're running out of other people's money. So they're cracking down on the internet escapades of individuals.
Well, they also can't control it. They can't control it the way they want to.
Exactly. They can't control it. That's why they don't want, they're trying to ban Signal in England. They've already banned it throughout the EU because Signal, the app, won't hand over the data information of its users. But just another example of the UK, how it's fallen. And I would go as far as stating that they are an oppressive government that we could potentially be subsidizing as well, like Israel. We just have to look more into it. But the people there, they need our thoughts, prayers, and our guns too, probably.
Absolutely. And on that note, anybody on the West Coast, from Northern California all the way down to Baja, check your weather. You've got a massive storm coming in. They're talking landslides, mudslides. There's already 65 people missing in Mexico. There's been like zero coverage of this. I just caught a video a couple of hours ago from Riverside Homestead. So everybody knows who they are that are in California. So if you see anything
storm.
like, heads up.
Yeah. Well. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Rebel Mama, everybody.
One more, Dean. One more.
Like Columbo. One more thing. Go ahead.
Yes, one more thing. President Trump and his Department of War have been quietly buying up Canadian mineral companies, including percentage shares. And there's not a darn thing Carney can do about it.
Well, see, there you go. Carney is on his way out. It feels, but that's just my feelings. Thank you very much, Marnie, and we will speak to you soon. There you have it. Okay, well, there I am too. Isn't that shocking? We're gonna say now our final grace here. Okay, we're gonna get out of here now. Tomorrow, we may be doing a late night thoughts, but also a late night update as well, because the geopolitical landscape is in full throttle as the NATO and EU are prepared for a full out ground war with Russia right now. And as someone who's here on the coast next to military weaponry stations, yes, literally, that's where I am. We are in a full movement of World War III as we know it. And you may not feel it, but you just have to look over the fence here of what's happening. And there is a major conclusion coming. Not sure, can't put my finger on it, but I can see it, I hear it where I am. The amount of military aircraft has subsided at the moment, but it's ebbs and flows. It peaks and then it stops. But I'll try to capture that on film if I can, and then try to share it if I can even do that with my handicap issues here. So that's going to be happening. I'll return tomorrow night. Now Thursday, mark your calendars. Thursday we're going to have Matt Millen, somebody, a filmmaker who's traveled throughout the Middle East and many different regions and cultures of the Middle East. Great theologian and historian as well. We're going to talk about World War II and the things we didn't hear about, and the things that were never really covered, as the fixation on Germany and everything that followed kind of took precedent in not just films and movies and TV specials, but also the history classes that we had to sit through during our academic careers. So we're going to touch upon that, delve in maybe to the creation and the origins of the Bolsheviks who were fighting today. So that's going to be Thursday night at 10 p.m. Eastern usual. And then Friday, for the members only, we have a special guest, a very big show. You don't want to miss that. Friday, 10 p.m. Eastern for members only, which you can become a member and a visionaire. Yes, you can by going to RealDealMedia.tv. And yes, you can do that and join us there. Well, we don't even have that. So anyways, we're going to leave it. I want to thank Rebel Mama for joining us here tonight. Thank you, Marnie. And also, yes, thank you for your patience with all of our little shortcomings here tonight, but that will change soon. So for all of us here at Real Deal Media's Late Night Update, the news radio edition, I'm Dean Ryan saying thank you for sharing a bit of your night. In the meanwhile, never forget to stay tuned and stay awake. See you tomorrow. Good night, everybody, and maybe tomorrow.
Been down and wondering why little life clouds keep rolling around me. What's the time when I'd rather be howling, walking outside my real smile, yeah, thrill. Oh, maybe tomorrow I'll find my way home. 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 Looking around at a beautiful life, at the upside down in the inside of the valve of a grill. Wanna breeze, wanna open my mouth, swim in the ocean, wanna take my time with me. Maybe tomorrow I'll find my way home. Maybe tomorrow I'll find my way home. Maybe tomorrow I'll find my way home. Find my way home. road. But somehow we